Welcome to Real Film Snobs. I'm Angela Yeager.
And I'm Brian Michael. Today we have a very special episode. Every episode is special, but today is extra special because we actually have our correspondents from the Ashland Independent Film Festival. We have Brad Wartman, who actually is one of our volunteers in the show that we pull through the camera every once in a while and sit down and have a talk about movies. And then we have Paul Turner, who's involved with the Dark Side Theater. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Dark Side Cinema.
Cinema, excuse me. And what would exactly be your title then for the cinema?
Lord God Emperor. No. I own the Dark Side Cinema in Corvallis, Oregon.
Excellent. And so we have plenty of stories that we'll get later at another time, of course, but it's a pleasure having you both here on the show.
Thank you.
And so you'll be talking about the Ashland Independent Film Festival. Brad, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the film festival is in Ashland, Oregon. It comes on the first full weekend of April. Every year it lasts from Thursday afternoon through Monday evening. And we have a mixture of documentaries, full-length feature films, shorts, animation. They have really a nice blend, and most of the films are in the Varsity Theater, which is a six screen theater in downtown Ashland. They've expanded out to the Armory and to the Crest Theater, right? That's the
Ashland Street.
Ashland
Cinemas.
Street. That's the mainstream commercial
Correct.
theater.
Yes.
But basically, and it's really reasonably priced for a film festival. And if you're brave of heart, you can do every single film. I have done it a few times and lived to tell the tale. So
you can actually, you can actually make your way through all the films the way they have them programmed at some point.
It used to be, but you can't anymore.
It's too big now.
Yeah,
it's gotten bigger
big.
over the years,
Right.
right? How long has the festival been going now?
I believe it's in its 15th year.
Here, and we've been going for 6 years.
Yes.
And yet the hotel we stay at still lets us come back year after year. I'm not sure why, but
Back to the cabbage incident, aren't we?
yes, back to the cabbage.
And have you always gone together? You drive down together, ride down together?
No, I've gone for about 12 years.
Okay.
So I've been going since the first few years they started.
Oh,
So you
wow.
pick up hitchhikers?
That's how you met Brad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hitchhiking, yeah.
Pretty much.
That's,
Yeah.
that's how we got him on the show.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, Brad always
They'll
out
do
there.
anything to dodge a warrant. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh, no. So the film festival in recent years, through a lot of the film websites and magazines I read, has gotten quite a bit of acclaim. There was an article recently saying it was one of the best film festivals in the country for documentary film
Right.
festivals. So it's really kind of gained quite a bit of reputation in that
Yeah,
way.
it is, and it's one of the things I really like about the film festival is that it's very localized. I mean, so for instance, last year we saw the film about the Buddhist monk who was
yeah, a
the
year
camera?
or two ago. Yeah,
And,
monk with a camera.
and so after the film, we walked down to get some pizza, and we're sitting at the table, and who sits next to us but the guy, the monk, who's at the head of the main person in the film, and we just start talking to him, and you get there's a really good sense of engagement.
It made me very ashamed of the pepperoni, though, because it was a meat product and he was a monk, and so that took a little while to get past for me. But I still enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
And the pepperoni pizza, hopefully.
Pepperoni pizza was awesome. Totally worth it.
Totally worth the shame. Okay, well, we're going today, from what I understand, you're each going to talk about 3 of your favorite films that you saw from the most recent festival. Right. And of course, it is June now. We're just getting around to this. And Brad and Paul went to see the films in April, but due to Paul's busy schedule, of course, as
My fault.
theater owner, well, business owners, I understand.
Always.
Yeah, always very busy. So thank you for coming on the show. That we appreciate.
Sure.
So you're going to share some of your favorite films, and you each pick different ones, which is nice. How many do you tend to see together versus apart?
Maybe 4 or 5, and there's probably 5 films a day.
Yes, that's about
Except for
right.
Thursday when there's only 4. So, Yeah, we get to see
At
see
least
some,
one per day together, and
Yeah.
then you see a lot
Usually,
apart as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, 5 films a day. That's
Yeah,
a
we can
That's
only
a good
if
day.
we get one
Yeah.
that's back to back.
Brian's
then,
like, that's my kind of day.
know.
Well, then we meet for meals, and then we piss and moan about the ones we hated and celebrate the ones we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's even some that you didn't like, I assume.
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
It is
Oh,
at any
yeah.
independent film festival, I
Yeah.
would assume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure,
there's
yeah.
always one. Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your first pick?
Yeah, so the first pick is actually a set of 3 films, all by the director Pamela Yates. The first film is titled When the Mountains Tremble, followed by Granito, Portrait of a Dictator, and then the third one is 500 Years. And the reason I picked this is because this is a set of films that spans a period of about 30 years in the life of the struggle of the people, Mayan people in Guatemala, with the elitist dictatorship that subjugated those people and really committed genocide against them. And what was interesting was that the first film came out in 1983. It was Pamela Yates' first major film. And after she did that film, there were several things that happened in regards to the dictatorship, and they were taken by or assessed by a Human Rights Commission to be and anyway, so she was sorry, I'm not doing a very good job here. So about the mid 90s, she was contacted by the Spanish National Court, the same people who tried and convicted Allende in Chile, and they were trying to do the same thing with this dictator in Guatemala. And it just so happened that her film record that was 1983 was the only film record of any of the atrocities that happened during that time.
That's incredible.
And so it became the basis for their trial, and one of the most important things in their trial.
Fascinating.
So the second film, Granito, Portrait of a Dictator, kind of covers that span where he's actually brought to court. And then the last film, 500 Years, is about his actual conviction and then the Reformation movement that's going on in Guatemala right now with the people who are now back into being a republic. But it's really the story of Reaganism and support of anti-communism and dictatorships and genocide and a whole slew of things. But I think it really just brings together, these 3 films bring together the fact that film has a real impact in life.
Yeah, it's amazing. So all 3 are documentaries. It's amazing. I've never heard of these films, any of them, and considering they played such an important role in history. These are the kind of films that you can often see at film festivals that don't get major play even in a lot of independent theaters. So are these ones? So you've seen all 3 now, obviously,
Yes.
and do you like them all equally?
I liked the second one the best,
Yeah.
Granito. The first one was her first major film, and she was really, you could tell she was very partial to their cause. But in spite of that, I think it really brought forward the suffering that they had, and the more dramatic one was the second one.
Yeah. Have you seen any of these, Paul?
I have not, no.
Yeah, so these are ones that you missed. Yeah, well, that's amazing. Yeah, they sound like, are these ones, do you know, Brad, can you seek these out any other place? Are they available to, online, streaming, Netflix, anything?
I haven't looked.
Yeah, so you've only seen them through the film
The
festivals.
documentaries have a better chance of getting streaming than I think that.
Than a lot of other types of films. Well, those are definitely sound like ones to seek out. They sound really important and interesting. So great, thanks. So Paul, I think you're up next.
Me?
Yes, you.
Something that's interesting is that Brad and I, we don't have a lot of overlap in the films that we see, because I can get a lot of information from him about something that I do not have the opportunity to see, or I want to see something else instead. So one of the nice things about Brad and I having gone so many years together is that I kind of get a sense of how screwed up his judgment really is. And I can use that as a barometer so when he really likes something, it immediately gets checked off my list.
Yeah, you're not gonna.
And if he says it totally sucks, then I go,
that sounds familiar.
That could work.
Thanks, buddy.
Anyway, I brought notes. So one of the films I saw was a documentary called Harold and Lillian. It's a Hollywood love story. Harold and Lillian, Harold is a storyboard artist. A storyboard artist is the person who takes the image that is spoken to him by a director, or her by a director, and renders it into a drawing that can be shown to demonstrate camera angles and how this will look in a frame of film. Lillian, his wife, was a film researcher. So she's the one where you say, well, what scene is this from? And are we emulating it? Are we violating copyright? We want to tell this story. Where does this come from? And she's the one who can say, oh yeah, they did that in 1921 and there was a 3-second bit in some film there. And she knows this stuff. So these two got married. And they managed to survive the ragged, stormy seas of the Hollywood establishment. And they have more to do with the films that have become part of our canon than anyone. We can look at Kubrick, we can look at Spielberg, we can look at Francis Ford Coppola, we can say, oh, these are the greatest directors in the world. And of course they are. But Harold and Lillian are the ones that took those ideas and manifested them into something that could be put onto a screen. And you have, the movie is wonderful because they have like Danny DeVito and Francis Ford Coppola talking about how these people do this and how important it is and how these are the best. These are the best people in the industry, and you don't hear about them. They're the most important uncredited people in any film that you've seen.
So has storyboarding gone out of style now with so many directors using digital cameras? For instance, you know, is there less need to storyboard out a film in terms of worried about wasting film like there used to be? Did they just get into how the technology might have changed what they do?
Well, what's interesting is that part of what they did was they would figure out camera angles and lens focal points. So they show him with a slide ruler doing the perspective change between a wide angle and a medium angle lens, and he's doing it by hand. And so you can do that digitally now, but it isn't as visceral, it isn't as tactile, and so a lot of directors prefer to do it this way.
They still do it by hand. So are they still working, both of them?
No, they both retired.
They're both retired, okay.
Or
great.
dead. Which is retired?
Well, it is, but I didn't know.
Permanently retired.
Permanent retirement. They weren't at the film festival. You didn't get. So
No,
you weren't sure they were dead. Then I guess they weren't. But.
No, they weren't at the film festival. It's something that I tend to do, perhaps more so than Brad, is I tend to see movies I know are probably going to get into release that I'll be playing.
So you can see if you want to show them at the theater.
Correct, and this is one that I had heard of when it was in post, and I knew I wanted to see it. And this is something I am viciously trying to book right now.
Great, so we can hopefully look forward to seeing Into the Dark Side Cinema.
Real quick, what's the portion in terms of the focusing on their relationship as opposed to the focus of their work? Is it kind of balanced, or is it mostly about?
It's very balanced, which is what makes the movie extremely good. And you know, it's a monument to a marriage surviving, even though they work together. They do different things, but they work. You know. She has this teeny little office in the best film library you can ever imagine. And she spends all day with people, A-list directors and actors showing up on her doorstep, and they just come in and they sit across from her and they ask her questions. And she doesn't Google it, she pulls it off of a shelf.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Great. Okay, Brad, I think we're on the next
Brad,
year.
he's ahead.
Yeah, he's ahead.
He's winning.
So my next film is Spettacolo, which is a film about a small town in Italy called Monticello. About 136, 140 people live there. And what's special about them is that every year during the summer, they will put together a play about themselves and the issues that are going on in their lives.
Oh, geez.
And they have been doing this for 50 years. And so the film follows them one summer where they are going through this process. And what they do is they, as a community, will get together, they will hash out ideas. They have one person who is kind of the director, so to speak, but they'll argue about things, they'll in the great Italian manner, and then they will focus on a particular idea, and then they will build a play around that idea. And in this case, the play was about gentrification, because this is a little town that is slowly losing its native population, but then people are buying homes and refurbishing them and making them into villas for their vacation villas. But it was really just a fascinating film about the people who lived there.
And another documentary. So yeah, we
Yeah.
have a lot of documentaries here today. So
Yeah.
that sounds
I always
great.
thought that truth is better than wilder than fiction. So many times the documentary you never hear about this doing. Well, I guess maybe it's connected to New York, but you never see a Hollywood movie doing that type of plot.
Right. Oh, and the one of the directors, Chris Shellen, also did another great documentary called Marwin Call, which was a story about a man who had been beaten and had brain damage.
creates the figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's
So,
a great
but
film.
excellent little film, and I highly
Great.
recommend it.
Great. Yeah, that's one to check out. Okay, Paul.
Oh, me.
Yes.
Let's see, what am I doing? Freedom to Marry. The Freedom to Marry is a documentary, an extremely well-made documentary. It's about the marriage equity movement, which is same-sex marriage, and how it is now the national passage of a federal law that celebrates this. I hate to say allows, but I guess that's actually it. That's the proper verb. This is something that took 4 decades to manifest, to make happen. And this is the story of the people who made this happen, and it is very intimate. This is not, the microphone in the hand in front of the courthouse. This is day-to-day lives and what they do, and the minute victories and the shattering, failures. And this brings you in. And it takes you right up to it. We all know how this ends. In June 26, 2005, the Marriage Equity Act had passed. But you can't pull yourself away. You know how this ends, but the buildup and the quality of documentary filmmaking, where they drag you in and you can't leave. You don't dare look away. So this is about the inner workings of the key players, and that's what makes it interesting, because we can go on and look at how the media covered this, but this takes you behind it. And for me, that's fascinating, as it seemed to have been for everyone else who was seeing it as well. This has been called the greatest civil rights story of our time. And this isn't to diminish the ones that had come before, but this is something that is very important in this day and age, and it's starting to, it's becoming relevant, whereas before this was something that was less mainstream. It wasn't something that was considered in almost every conversation about personal, civil, or human rights. So this was part of that becoming part of the conversation in any conversation that involves human rights. And this film brings this together, so you can see the actual fight that was involved for this to happen just in this country.
Yeah, great. I have heard a little bit about this movie, and is it going to be showing at your theater or showing?
We're working on it.
Working on it, yeah. No, that's definitely one. And it's interesting to see the behind the scenes of the people that actually make these things happen, because we see things tend to be when they go to court or when it's about to happen. But this obviously was a work in progress for many, many years. So.
And they're very good people, which is, I think, what I found so endearing. Is these, well, they're lovely folks, and they're up to their elbows in alligators, and they still maintain civility and humanity. And for me, that's very inspiring, and it made me very much enjoy the film.
Great. Yeah, it's definitely. Okay, Brad?
Yeah, my
Your
next
last
film
one.
is, my last one is Abacus, Small Enough to Jail. And, during the 2008 financial crisis, we heard about Citigroup, we heard about Chase Bank, we heard about all the big banks that were too big to fail. Well, this is the story of a small bank run by a family called the Tung family, who the father had, in the early 80s, had started a bank that catered primarily to the Chinatown population in, I think in New York City, or was it San Francisco? I can't remember. No, it was New York City. And one of the problems was during the 2008 meltdown, they had an incident where an employee was convicted, or was basically cheating their clients. And they went through all the proper procedures to contact the feds and get everybody involved. And what the real crux of the story, though, is about how the politicians who were wanting to make an example of somebody decided they were going to make an example of this little bank.
So they're the ones that were big. They were small enough to fail, right, or small enough to jail in
right.
this case. Yeah.
Right, and so the whole movie is about the story of this family as people like Chuck Schumer, Cyrus Vance Jr., who was Attorney General at that time, were heavily trying to get them to cop a plea to their sins, and how these people resisted and said no, that we have we have right on our side, and even though it cost them millions of dollars, how they managed to persevere and retain their dignity. And I just thought it was a great story of that struggle of those people.
Yeah, that's interesting with the financial. That doesn't surprise me, but it would be interesting to follow that, because as we know, a lot of the big guys are the ones that can afford to, hire lawyers to get them out of these things, or they just don't even want to touch them to begin with. Yeah.
And something you mentioned earlier about how you only see this kind of stuff at film festivals. Well, this film only grossed like $86,000. So it didn't make a lot of money. But, these are the kind of things that you get to see at film festivals because it brings these issues to light where you would never see them anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about this film festival.
And it's Steve James directed that. Is this the same director who did Hoop Dreams?
Yes.
That's Steve James? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so very renowned filmmaker, but this one I hadn't heard of before.
Labor of Love.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
And also the intimate view of the family and how the Asian American interaction in the family was really
The cultural
interaction was delightful. It was.
And you saw this one, Paul, then?
Yes.
This was one, and you enjoyed it as well?
Well, except Brad was throwing popcorn at the back of my head, but other than that, it was really good.
Shouldn't throw popcorn. Someone has to clean
You
that
guys
up.
sit
Right?
next to each other?
Oh, hell no.
No. Oh, no.
Okay.
Those type of guys. Okay. Well, we didn't know. Okay.
So like I said, we stay in this one hotel year after year, and it kind of reminds me of the scene from the movie Paper Chase, where Hart and Ford lock themselves in the room while they're getting ready for their exams. I don't know why they still let us back in, but
They do.
I was thinking planes, trains, and automobiles, or pillows, or something like that, maybe.
that's a calmer
version. Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhat more uncomfortable for me, but yeah, calmer.
Come. Okay, so your next film, Paul.
Okay. Pushing Dead, which is an unfortunate title for actually a really good drama. I couldn't find it on RT, Rotten Tomatoes, because I was trying to do what the consensus is, which is unfortunate. So this is a movie about how tenuous our healthcare system really is, especially for those who've been a little marginalized. This is a story about a young man whose medication runs him about $3,000 a month, and his benefits are based on how much he earns. Well, his mom gives him a $100 birthday check. He puts it in the account and throws everything off. Suddenly, he's not covered anymore, and he needs $3,000 worth of HIV meds for just to remain healthy. So this is the story of this young man's journey through that particular maze, and they made it into a comedy.
So it's a comedy.
It's a comedy, because the lead
Sounds grim.
the lead is James Roday from Psych,
okay.
who played in Psych, the white guy on Psych, and the thing that's beautiful is that I always liked him in Psych, but the thing that he always seemed a little light, a little insignificant, and here they actually let him play something with a little bit more depth. And he's good, which, because
So this is a fictional film.
It
At first,
is.
when you
It's
first
a-
described it, I was like, oh, another.
No, it's a
documentary.
drama.
There's a documentary, I'm like,
No.
oh, dang it.
So it's and again,
comedy, yeah, okay.
as Brad is, we often don't know what we're getting into. So I'm sitting there, oh, it's a comedy, and then I see that guy, and I go, oh, good, a TV actor. This is going to suck, and it didn't. He was actually really good, which was a delight. Also in this film is Danny Glover, who plays someone who's trying to keep his wife from leaving him. So you have these two completely opposite ends of the romantic scale, who, aside from age, race, sexuality, personal experience in life, and they're friends. And from that particular, apparent mismatch. There's a lot of really good energy that passes back and forth and some extremely well written dialogue.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Now, is that one out in theaters, Paul?
No,
or
they're
it's
still
already came out? Or?
they're still working on
Distribution.
theatrical distribution.
Okay.
Last I heard, because I wanted to try to bring it in, I wanted to bring that in and Freedom to Marry at the same time.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Oh, at the same time. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on the Dark Side schedule so we can see some of these films, and then the other ones, some of these might be a little harder to find if you're not going to the film festival. But
Harold and Lillian is now playing at the Dark Side Cinema.
oh, right now.
There you
Okay,
go.
great. So there you go. So a little plug there. And but all of these sounded great. And you know, the one that you mentioned at the beginning, Brad, the trilogy there, those are definitely ones I'm going to look to see if they're on streaming.
Yeah.
So. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it, and it makes me really excited to get out there and go to some film festivals and see some of these exciting movies, because I love going to film festivals. So.
Yes, and you know, for those at home, of course, now we have some movies that we added to our list, and we're going to work on trying to find those. And if they
Yeah,
come
we'll
to
try to
town here,
review
we'll
them at a
certainly let
future
them know
show, yeah.
that we get to see them, because they all sounded very interesting, and we certainly want to thank both of you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Really appreciated that. You know, even though we get a week off from watching movies, now I'm like, but I wanted to see those now. So
Yeah, I know.
So now we got to catch up on some other ones. As always, you know, you can like us on Facebook, you can follow us on Twitter, you can watch us on YouTube, and you can listen to us on KMUZ. Go onto our website, realfilmsnobs.com, to submit a viewer's pick. We want to thank our amazing sponsors, our wonderful crew, and you, the viewer. As always, have a great day and great movies. Thanks for watching.